welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, welcome. I feel like most people are new here because this is a pretty small account. But if you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video and thank you for supporting my channel. I hope you end up staying after watching this content. As usual, my name is Marmy Newton. Welcome to my video or welcome to this week's video. So a while ago I saw an article on BuzzFeed, or from BuzzFeed, written by someone named Megan Liscombe. I don't know, I'm not really familiar with her work, but I saw this article calling out TV characters who are supposed to be poor and saying that their lifestyles are very unrealistic. I wanted to mention her just to give credit where credit is due and then talk about my video. So in her article, she mentions quite a lot of TV shows. Some of them I've seen, others I haven't. So I wouldn't be able to offer any opinions about the ones I haven't seen. But the ones that I have, I wanted to talk about and kind of measure if, yeah, they are definitely living above their means or having a very unrealistic lifestyle based off of the job they do, or if I think that there's an explanation on the show for why they're able to afford the lifestyle they live, or why they're living that lifestyle in the first place, given their kind of income or their low income status. So let's get into it. First off, we should talk about Glee, the TV show Glee, not the state of being happy, the show Glee. I think that in the article, Megan had mentioned that in Glee, Kurt and Rachel and Santana, or Kurt and Rachel in I think season 4, when they were living in New York City, being able to afford this giant, very spacious apartment, and having to be students at NIADA, and then working part-time at a diner to be able to make money, they definitely would not be able to afford the giant apartment that they were living in. And to that, I actually do agree. I feel like that apartment was definitely way too nice, but I also think that Rachel is an only child and her parents may have been sending her money, they may have been paying for all of her tuition, or maybe she got financial aid for her tuition, so her parents didn't need to pay her tuition or pay all of her tuition. I keep saying tuition. Need to pay all of that, and so they had extra income to be able to maybe send to Rachel to be able to afford that apartment. I feel like that's the explanation that I have for that. And so I guess Rachel's housing is covered, or most of the housing is covered by Rachel. And then Kurt is also an only child, so Kurt's dad is able to also be able to funnel a lot of his income to be able to support Kurt. So I think that's why they have nice housing. And then they work at the diner to be able to have pocket money, which a lot of college students do. I feel like a lot of very lucky college students get the chance to have their parents pay for most of the things that financial aid doesn't cover, or like pay for everything in general, and then they have to take care of actually getting pocket money to spend and use on social activities. So that's what I imagine for Kurt and Rachel. So I don't think they're living above their means. I think their parents are probably sponsoring them. So no, they are not living above their means. Next up, I want to talk about Charmed, the old version that came out in the 90s, early 2000s. I don't remember that show very well, but because I watched it when I was a kid. I watched snippets of it with my older sister when I was a kid. So I don't remember it very well. I just remember there's 3 sisters. They all have names that start with P: Piper, Prue, and and someone else. And then there was a 4th sister at some point. I remember that. So her claim was that the girls are broke because they're constantly complaining about how they don't have any like money and stuff, but they're driving all these nice cars and they live in a giant house. To that I say that show is about magic. And if you have magic and you cannot summon yourself a nice house and a nice car, then I'm sorry, I don't know what you're doing with that, the magical powers you have. So that could be one explanation. But also, if they could summon themselves a nice house and nice cars, why wouldn't they be able to just get money as well? So I would say, to that I would say, I think that they may have inherited the house. I mean, if for someone, people who inherited this magic, their magic and all these grimoires and all these things, I feel like it would make sense for them to have inherited their house. Maybe one of them, and there's also three sisters, so maybe because they don't really need to pay for rent and they just need to pay for mostly maybe the taxes on the house. The three of them are splitting it three ways, and so they're able to have all this disposable income to be able to then afford the monthly payment on their nice Mercedes cars. So that's what I say to that. And then the next show I will be talking about is New Girl. For New Girl specifically, they said that it was Jess they were focusing on. I would be more worried about Nick, but okay. It was Jess they were focusing on because Jess is a teacher. She's also a very, very new teacher at that. And teachers in general in the United States do not make that much money. And to that I say Jess has three roommates, and she has three male roommates. I don't think she's doing that well. The male part, it may have been by choice, because in the first episode I don't think she was very worried about the fact that they were guys. So well, regardless, she has three roommates, and even though the apartment is very big, it's very spacious, it's also a loft, and it's in Los Angeles. And I haven't seen any loft apartments in any of the really nice parts of LA. I haven't seen any on the west side, or any of the better looking parts in the east side, like Glendale or Silver Lake or anything of sorts. So I'm gonna guess that their apartment is actually in downtown Los Angeles. And I know that some apartments are fairly pricey over there, but like I said, she has three roommates, so there's four people total split in the rent, and it's a loft apartment. So I think because it's so many people split in it, it would be weird if it was just her who had her own apartment that was that size. But with all the roommates, I think it definitely makes sense. So I will say that Jess is living within her means. And also, I don't think we see her buying any expensive cars or any expensive things throughout the show, or for the most part of the show. There's probably some episode where she does something like that, but we don't see her spending that much money. So she's buying lots of arts and crafts stuff. Maybe she's getting them from maybe Michael's or something, or Blick Arts Materials. These are not ads for them, but maybe she's getting them from those places, and so that's how she's able to afford her lifestyle. Next up, we will be talking about Rachel from Friends. Okay, so Rachel, the argument is that she's a waitress at a coffee shop, and so she's definitely not able to afford a nice apartment like that in New York City, much less to be able to go out and all of that. I say that I watched Friends a very long time ago. Well, not a very long time ago, probably just like 3 years ago. I've seen that show a lot of times. I used to watch it as a kid, also with my older sister, but I've seen the complete 10 seasons maybe 3 times. And I do remember that there was an episode where Phoebe, Joey, and Rachel feel like Monica, Chandler, and Ross definitely proposed a lot more expensive things for the friend group to do, and the others cannot afford it. So I think definitely for like social reasons, there is an episode that explains that the less fortunate members, or the less money equipped I don't know members of the friend group are definitely not able to afford a lot of expensive social activities, and so that is explained in the show. But specifically with Rachel and her housing situation, living with Monica, I'm pretty sure it is said on the show that Monica inherited the lease from her grandmother or someone that is older and had had the place for a while. And so definitely she got grandfathered or grandmothered into the lease, Monica. And so that's how, so the place is technically quite cheap. And so and then obviously they are also, they're roommates and they're splitting the rent. I don't know who has the bigger room or whatever. I don't remember that much from the show, but they are splitting the rent. So it's definitely going to be much cheaper than if Rachel was living by herself. And also being grandfathered into the lease definitely means that it would be much cheaper relative to other New York apartments in the late 90s to early 2000s. So yeah. And then another character that was mentioned was Penny from The Big Bang Theory. And the reasoning behind that was that Penny cannot afford to live in her apartment because she lives right across the hall from two physicists who work at I think they work at Caltech in the show. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Or University of Pasadena. I know they live in Pasadena, but I'm not sure if is Pasadena in the Valley. I don't know. But yeah, so all of that, and that Penny cannot afford that. But I feel like there's countless episodes in which Penny is struggling to be able to pay rent. I'm pretty sure there's even an episode where Penny ends up borrowing money from Sheldon, and Sheldon is like doesn't care, but Penny it's like makes it all weird because now she owes Sheldon money and she needs to pay him and blah blah blah. And also like it's a running joke on the show that Penny can't afford food, so she ends up hanging out with the guys to be able to get free dinners. So there's that. And we don't really see Penny doing anything extravagant throughout the show. Like she hosts a couple of parties, but she's not like going on trips. She's not getting all these crazy meals and stuff or going on to restaurants or buying. She does shop a lot, but she's not buying like designer things. I bet she's getting random cheap things off of sketchy websites online and stuff. So I don't think Penny is spending that much money because she's getting her Wi-Fi for free from the guys. She's getting her food for free. She also works at the Cheesecake Factory, and I feel like if there's extra food when they're closing, she might be able to take some home. I'm not sure. If someone works at the Cheesecake Factory, they can correct me. And then she's also struggling with rent. It is definitely stated in the show that she does struggle to be able to pay her rent, and so much so that she had to take money from Sheldon and from the guys to be able to afford that. So Penny is not portrayed as unrealistic because she is definitely not able to afford her lifestyle. It's in the show. So yeah, it also kind of reminds me, this show isn't mentioned in the article, the BuzzFeed article, but Two Broke Girls, Caroline and Max from Two Broke Girls, I think I may have seen a TikTok somewhere where someone was like, oh, they definitely could not afford their lifestyle. They live in a very sketchy part of New York City. They live in a one-bedroom apartment, and same with everything else that I've been talking about. They also got grandfathered into their lease. There is an entire episode, I don't know which specific episodes, but I keep using that as like what happened, but there is an entire episode where the girls have to go to like a retirement home to go and get the guy who used to live in the apartment who's on the actual lease and bring him so that he can renew the lease so that the girls are able to then keep living in the apartment for the subsidized price. And also Caroline doesn't even have her own room, so they are technically paying for a one-bedroom apartment that is subsidized, or that is, you know, that's a very old lease. And they're also, one of them is also not even getting their own room. So I definitely think that in terms of housing the girls, it is realistic because they do provide all these explanations for why they're able to live there. But I do think they have a backyard, which is what I find to be strange on that show, because I mean, I don't know which New York City apartment has enough space to have a backyard, but someone correct me if I'm wrong, because yeah, where they keep Chestnut, their horse, Caroline's horse, I don't know. I feel like that's what's unrealistic, the fact that they have a backyard to be able to keep a horse. But yeah. And then another show that was in the article was Pretty Little Liars, and the character that they were going after was A. I'm not sure which of the A's, because there's so many A's throughout that show. There's the CC Drake A, there's the Mona A, there's so many A's. But in this case, they're going after the A that built the dollhouse. I don't know. I feel like this one I agree with. A definitely doesn't have, like, it's they need to have enough money, not just enough money, but also enough time to be able to build all of these places and do all of these creepy things. Are they hiring a staff? Like, what is going on? So I definitely think that one for Pretty Little Liars, that is definitely very unrealistic for A to be creating all these scenarios and putting the girls through the ringer for all of these kinds of situations. So I agree, A is living way above their means. So yeah. And then next up, and this is also the final one that was listed in the show, I would like to talk about Gilmore Girls. And the logic was Lorelai Gilmore cannot pay for Rory, or the other Lorelai, to be able to go to Chilton, but she can afford to go to Luke's to go and get takeout all the time and keep ordering food and all of that. And to that I say, maybe it's because Lorelai isn't paying for Chilton. That's why she's able to use all that money to then be able to to then order all that takeout. Because I think Rory's grandparents end up paying for Chilton. I'm not sure though, but if the grandparents are not paying for Chilton, then yes, Megan Liscombe is right in her BuzzFeed article that yes, the Gilmore Girls are living above their means. But if the grandparents are definitely paying for Chilton, then I would say that because they're paying for Chilton is why the Gilmore Girls are able to then get all this takeout and food from Luke's and all of that. So yeah, I would like to conclude here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you agree with the things that I said or if you disagree. Either or, all opinions welcomed. And please feel free to subscribe if you're new here. Once again, welcome. And if you have seen any of my videos before, please feel free to subscribe. And I will see you guys some other time. Bye.